everyone. I haven't done one of these videos for ages. I've been meaning to do this one for a long time, but you know, life happens and you don't get to do what you're set out to do. So this video is about haunted objects, which is a bit of an interesting subject when it comes to both the paranormal and mediumship and the spiritual in general. I'm actually coming to you from my spirited dolly corner. The start of the last lockdown, I started collecting dolls as something, just something to do really while we couldn't go anywhere. What I didn't realise was me being particularly spiritually connected. The dolls I was actually buying had either residual energy or a spiritual attachment. So the majority of the dolls that I have either have one of the other. So I've probably got 9, maybe 10 dolls that have a very strong attachment, and I probably have the majority of the other ones either have a residual energy of different strengths, or sometimes you feel something, sometimes you see something, and sometimes there's that whole spiritual echo that plays out in a movie when it comes to residual energy. So how does an object become spiritually connected or haunted? I have a few that have very strong connections to spirit. It tends to happen when there's an emotional investment into the object. People love cars, they collect stamps, they collect books, jewelry, anything that a person loves or person puts in emotional energy into it, whether it's negative energy or positive energy, or whether it's the energy of control and this is mine and you can't have it, or whether it's the energy of love and the object was adored by a child, whether it was the energy of loss and grief and it was given to you by someone who you lost and it was treasured that way. There has to be an element of emotional energy for something to have any sort of spiritual connection, whether it's residual or the actual attachment. I have dolls that have very strong attachments to the point where the spirit comes and goes. So the spirit isn't actually in the object. It's connected, if you like, by an energetic bungee cord. So it creates an emotional cord to an object, and wherever that object goes, that particular spirit has access. So it comes and checks on its, if it's a doll that the person has loved since they were a child, then it has automatic access to check on that. Not every spiritually connected object is negative. Some are misunderstood. They may appear to affect the living, and that may be seen as a negative thing, but it's not necessarily a negative thing. It may be the way that spirit communicates. So I have, like I said, probably 9, I think, that have a strong spiritual connection. Chrissy, which you can just see up in the corner here, this little lady, she has the connection to her of the previous owner. I have quite a few dolls from the same collection from that lady that had passed. They were all saved from a skip bin by a lovely lady who runs a second-hand store, and I bought pretty much the majority of the collection, and the owner of that particular collection of dolls drops in, especially when I'm doing up other dolls and I'm restoring other dolls, which is something else I do. So this one up here, Chrissy, she's probably got, come here Chrissy, here she is. There we go. So this is Chrissy. She's a 1972 baby Chrissy doll. Her hair actually, she's actually got a, if I pull her dress up, excuse me, lovey. She's got a string, a pull string in the back, in her back, if you see it. And her hair actually grows and shrinks. So anyone who's from, you know, the 1960s, 1970s would know the Chrissy dolls. So this part here, this long part here, actually sucks into her head when you pull the string. And she's actually in fairly good nick for her age, really. The baby Chrissy dolls were based on a 9-month-old baby. So this was particularly one of the favourites of the lady I know was Susan, because she's the lady that used to own them. And Susan will pop in and watch as I'm doing up other dolls, because she loved her dolls. She's got a nice face. She loved her dolls. So yeah, Susan pops in when I'm cleaning up other dolls. So that's Chrissy. It's a bit of a flower child, that one. I also have other little ones that have, there's a few that have got interesting sort of connections to them. I've posted on both my Dolly page and on a few other pages about, I'll just get her up. This is Eve. She's smiling away there. There we go. I've actually posted about her on quite a few pages. Eve is a three-faced, I've even done a video on Eve. Eve is a three-faced 1980s doll, 1980s hobby doll. So she was one that was done when making, sorry about that, Evie's up to her old tricks. She's deciding to play with the camera. So this is Evie. I'll pop her up on a bit higher so you can see her. Evie's a three-faced 1980s porcelain doll. Her head's porcelain, her hands are porcelain, but the rest of her is cloth. So her head, she has 3 faces, and I've recently fixed the damage in her neck, so her head turns a little bit better. So she has 3 faces, and they give off a certain vibe to people. There's a smiley face. So Eve's life wasn't the best on Earth. Eve is the spirit of a young girl who had mental health issues. So emotionally, she's not the most stable spirit. She's not stable at all, really. Her emotions tend to affect other people. They tend to, people tend to find her a little bit scary. I've done a whole video on Eve, so I think I'll repost that at some stage. So there she is over there with her dolly, because she likes her dolly. So that's Evie. Because she affects the living, she can be seen as negative. Probably in another household that would be the case. There's the cat. Hello, Mal. I never work with children and animals. You right there, Mal? Go on, hop off. Hop off. Hop off. Sorry about that. Had to get the child to come and get the cat. Spirit tend to, so that's Eve. She has the potential to be misunderstood. She doesn't affect people on purpose. It's not her goal. Her world is just so messed up. Her emotions are difficult for her to hold on to and to control, and if you're empathic, you're going to pick up on Eve. I have a few interesting little ones. This is a little one that we've wired up to take on paranormal tours with us. This is our little black-eyed child. She's got the little cat ball with us, and she's also got a static field attached to her. That's just a little piece of paranormal equipment we have, so she beeps. She was actually one that I was doing up, and I had to take her eyes out because they were mouldy, and because of COVID I haven't been able to get the parts to replace her eyes yet, because I've got to get them from the States, and you know, the world's a little bit up in the air right now. So at the moment she's a black-eyed child, so she's a 1960s baby doll from England. And then we have, who do we have? We have Jeannie up the top there. She was one of the first. I'll take the camera up in a minute. She's the spirit of an elderly lady who passed on her own. And she just likes it here. She's very forward, very know what she wants. She's not negative, but you know, she knows what she wants, and she knows where she wants to be. When we got the cabinet behind me, this is the dolly cabinet, Jeannie insisted on being right up the top on the corner there, so she could see the whole room. Her eyes tend to follow you around the room. She's more of a watcher than anything else. This is young Cameron. He's very special to me. This is Cam. He's a reborn doll, so he looks very lifelike. I bought him for myself, but he has two spirits attached to him. He has a young boy who followed me home from hospital when I had my surgery. So he's got, young Peter has a link to Cameron, and there is another young boy that's got a link to Cameron who's connected to me in some way, but I'm not sure how. So that's where young Cam comes from. We also have our, if I can get up and get her. So I have this lady here. Now she's another one who's a little bit interesting, because this little lady, instead of 3 faces, she only has 2. So she has her sleepy face, and then you turn her head around, and she has a happy face. She has an awake face. She's a 1980s doll as well. Doll making was really popular in the 1980s, so, you know. So she has 2 faces, and this one doesn't have a human spirit attached to it. It's an elemental spirit that now wanders around the house and generally causes a whole lot of mischief. I've nicknamed the elemental Dennis the Menace because he does cause a great deal of... Dennis causes a bit of he's a bit mischievous, as most elementals are. So there's a few. There's ones that just move on their own. There's ones that blink. There's ones that look at you and follow you around the room. The little pink lady behind me with a hand out. This one here. She's a 1970s walking talking doll. Her voice box still works, so occasionally I'll hear her voice box go up. And she says things like, "I like you. Will you be my friend?" "I like to dance. I'm hungry." So you can walk into the room at 3 o'clock in the morning and she'll just go off. People might say that's loose wiring. I don't think so. I know she's got something going on with her, so she's done that a couple of times. I have if I can bring the camera, I have down here, if you can see her, I don't know whether you can see her or not, she is a terracotta, a Japanese terracotta lady. We don't know a whole lot about where she originates from. We've been trying to do research, but we don't entirely know. She has a very protective, very healing sort of energy to her. I've got young Chloe up here. She's the little one in the pink dress up here, which I've also posted about. And there's a whole heap in the cabinet behind me. The thing with haunted objects is the majority of them are not negative. Dolls particularly get a bad rap because, you know, there's the Annabelle doll and there's Robert the doll and there's a couple of really well-known haunted dolls that kind of give the rest of them a bad rap, but none of mine are negative. None of the spirit that are attached, whether it's an intelligent haunting or a residual haunting, none of them are negative. It's not that there aren't negative ones, there are, but I don't want that in my house. You know, Rick and I are mediums. We work paranormal, you know, we run the Black Rose Spirited, so we do our paranormal thing. And I've got a nearly 16-year-old daughter in the house and who is a sensitive, and it would kind of be irresponsible of me to bring something into the home that could potentially hurt her. So, you know, I don't go there. I've also got a book which is up on the chessboard up there. It's also got the spirit of a rather large smiley ginger cat attached to it. Bought that on eBay, didn't realise it had an attachment. When I took the book out of the box, there was the cat in the house. And I also have a vintage tea leaf reading cup that has the energy of a clairvoyant that used to use it attached to it as well. That's Pearl. So anything really can have an attachment. Any object, a chair, a table, a wardrobe, a bed, jewelry, kids' toys, clothing can have one. It doesn't necessarily have to be a sweet little doll or with a bonnet or a scary looking doll that looks like it's something out of the Annabelle franchise. It could be a painting. You know, there are paintings that have had attachments to them. The point I'm trying to make is, if you get something secondhand, either smudge it before you bring it into the house if you don't want to deal with that, or if it does feel a bit off, you know, if you are picking up on something, if it feels a little bit interesting, if it gives you chills or the hairs on the back of your neck stand up on whatever, there's one of two things. It's either got an attachment, and that attachment, whatever the spirit is dropping in and out because it's not actually in the object. It's got that energetic bungee cord. Or it's just a residual energy. If you smudge it and it feels better and that feeling goes away, it's residual. If you smudge it and the feeling doesn't go away, it's probably a spiritual attachment. It's probably got someone who owned it, loved it, possessed it, not possessed as in demonic possessed, but possessed as in owned it, who can't give it up. And then you either have to find out who it is or get someone to find out who it is and what the go is with it. If they're not negative, smudging it won't get rid of it. If it's not a negative energy, smudging doesn't get rid of negative energy. Smudging clears the energy, but if it's not a negative, if it's a child, if it's a elderly lady, if it's someone with good intent, then smudging won't get rid of it. You will need to find out who it is, and if you're happy to have some resident spirited house guests as we are, then you can live with it. If not, you can find a medium or someone on that spiritual front who can help the spirit move on and figure out why it's connected. The one that I have that's very interesting is the little lady in the cradle behind me, and I will pick her up. this is baby Aurora. Sorry, sweetheart. Baby Aurora. She's a sleepy doll. Once again, one of those 1980s homemade dolls. So, this is baby Aurora. I called her Aurora after Sleeping Beauty because that's the name of the princess in Sleeping Beauty. Aurora's got two attachments. One that has crossed over and one that hasn't. Aurora's story is probably one of the most, it's probably one of the saddest I've come up against. Aurora was the baby and there was a house fire and the baby died. Not from the fire, but as a result of the smoke. And Aurora's mother was so traumatized by the loss of the baby that she created an emotional link to the doll, and the baby felt her mother's pain, and she would visit the doll in order to make her mother feel better. And that was, the mother felt solace in holding the doll, and the baby who had crossed still had a link to its mother. Aurora was only little. She was only, you know, she was not very old. But when I got the doll, when I got the baby doll, it was amazing to see that, you know, she looked like I would look across and she would look like she was breathing. She, you know, you can see that I'm rocking with her because it's just an automatic thing I do with her. I would walk over and I would look over and I'd see her breathing, and I'd see her lips moving, and I'd see her stirring while she was sleeping. And I'd hear it crying, like you'd hear a baby crying. We don't have a baby in the house. So I'd pick her up and she'd settle and I'd put her back down. I've had friends who have heard her crying. And it was then that my guide said, there's something going on with this child. There's something going on with the spirit. And I did a bit of a channeled sort of astral travel thing. And Aurora's mother hasn't crossed over. Well, she did cross over, but she is somewhere between here and there. She crossed over, but then she was brought back. So she died, she crossed over, and then the doctors brought her back, and her mother is in some kind of limbo, whether she's on life support or she's in a coma or she's had a stroke and she's in a state that she can't get out of physically. She's alive, but she's not alive. So this little one has two connections, because she has the baby that's looking for its mother, but she also has the mother who hasn't crossed over looking for her child. So there are two links, two cords, if you like, to the one object. And when the mother crosses over, both will dissolve and it'll just be residual energy. So little baby Aurora, I don't get her up out of the cot. She's got a cradle. She lies in a cradle, which I got for her, with a blanket over her, so her and her mother can have that link through the doll. She's a sweet little thing. She does look very lifelike, and part of that's the energy that's there. I still look over and see her moving and snoring and breathing and all that sort of stuff. But she's a lot happier now. She's got the link to her mother, and they've sort of, in a roundabout sort of way, found each other. So that's the little baby. There she is. Some people find her quite eerie, a bit like Evie. Some people think she does look very like she's passed. She looks very peaceful. Some people think she looks a little too lifelike. So she stays in that cot, that cradle, and I'll show you the cradle. If I can just pick the camera up without putting my hands all over it. So there's Aurora's little cradle. There, that's where she sleeps. There you go. And here's little Aurora. She's probably the saddest little soul that I've come across doing what I do with the objects, which I kind of fell into. Like I said, they're not all sad. They're not all negative. They're not all... there are some that are actually quite funny sort of spirit. I've got a couple of elemental spirit that are attached to the dolls in the cabinet. There's a little smiley one up there, Jane. You can see her, with the brown hair. Etty, we've actually, the one with the blonde hair and the ringlets, you can see behind me. We've actually had conversations with the dolls through cat balls and dowsing rods. So they do respond. So there's little Aurora in her crib. And if we pan up, that's the bottom floor of the dolly cabinet. So you can see the bride doll in the middle there. She's got a residual sort of attachment. The one with the hat on over the far side, she's got an attachment as well. It's not a strong attachment, but she's very demanding. And then we go up here. There's little Miss Pouty Pants in her Care Bear pajamas. The majority of them have residual energy. The one on the end in the blue and white dress is one of Susan's that I've restored. The lady in the red and the cream, that's Lady Rose. She's the only doll I've ever bought that was advertised as haunted. I bought her on Facebook. She was $20 on Marketplace, and the guy couldn't get rid of it quick enough. So I think she possibly freaked him out. She does have an attachment. And we've got these ladies up here, ladies and gents. There's Jane, the little smiley one with the brown hair. She's got an elemental sort of fairy sort of energy. In the middle is Etty. She's got the spirit of the previous owner. And then you come across, and there's a few, you know, there. They're the end. The rest have residual. The one with the wide eyes in the corner there and the brown Albany hair, that's one I actually bought when Carla was little, my daughter. So, and then I can stand up without falling over. There we go. So there we got the elementals up in there, and then up the top there's a few more. That one at the back there that looks like she's been in the wars, she's actually from 1918, so she's actually from the First World War. So they all have their own stories to tell. We just pan into the corner here. There's the pink lady. And if I push her tummy, she will, where's the button? She talks.
I like you. Will you be my friend? I like to dance. Will you play with me? I'm hungry. Hi.
And her hand wasn't there like that last night, so she's obviously moved. A couple of sleepy dolls. This little one with the beanie, she's actually an animatronic doll that is an interactive one. She's a more common, more modern one. And then we come down to here, there's Cricket. She's one of Susan's dolls. And we've got Elspeth, who's a Scottish lass, along with Baby. baby's eyes and Elspeth's eyes tend to move. We've got my Chinese lady, who's quite large, as you can see. One on the end there is actually an Indian doll that's used to teach young girls how to tie their saris. And as you can see, I'm not clever enough to put the sari on, so I'm still working on that. Then we've got the twins, Kath and Kim, and young Chrissy, young Chloe, who I've written about, and then there's Dennis's doll, the elemental. So, and there's a young little one on the. She's a little one that I am restoring, and under her is the book that the cat is attached to that I was telling you about. As we come down, falling over, is Cameron. He's got the two boys attached to him, and there's little Nikki, who has the spirit of a developmentally. I don't like using developmentally interesting young man with this. That's Nikki. So he's connected there. And then here we have Miss Pumpkin Seed. She's a bit cute. So the energy in this corner is quite, there's the cabbage patches. The energy in this corner is quite strong. The dolly cabinet has mirrors at the back, which I cleansed with moon water before I put the dolls in, so there wasn't going to be too many issues. There's also crystals in the dolly cabinets for grounding and protection and that sort of thing. So, and then we have Miss Eve, who is yelling at me. She's not happy right now because I haven't got her bonnet on properly. So there's Evie. There's Evie's little charge. That's the one she looks after, who's in the video that I posted a while ago. And this is one of our new little ones. This is Jamie. So that's young Jamie. Technical issues. That's really the whole thing. It's not as complicated or as dark as people make out. People tend to get freaked out by dolls, especially, like I said, because of Hollywood and movies like Annabelle and I think the Chucky movie was Child's Play. They're not out to stab you in your sleep. There are ones that are quite negatively charged, but it's a choice whether you have it in your home or not. I see a lot of the spirit that are attached to the dolls that I have or the objects I have. A lot of them need help. A lot of them need a place to feel safe. Jeannie up the top there especially. I've got the bigger ones are on top of the cabinet. A lot of them need somewhere to feel safe. A lot of them need a little bit of compassion, and understanding. A lot of them need help to get to the light. And once they get to the light, the doll doesn't have any energy, and it's just a residual energy of the spirit. As yet, none of the spirit that are attached to my dolls or my objects that are lost souls have gone to the light. I've got objects that have spirit who have gone to the light and who are still attached to it, and they come back again. And they've got they're in no hurry to go. And then I've got ones like little Aurora that I showed you, and Eve, and little Chloe, who Chloe has the spirit of a 11-year-old girl who passed due to childhood cancer, and she needs a little bit of help to get to where she needs to be. My guides have told me that Eve she won't cross over until I do. And you get that sometimes. You get spirit who connect to you and rely on you, and the only way they're going to go home is when you do. Eve's world is very fractured and confused. When I connect to Eve, it's a world of being institutionalized and being treated for whatever mental health issues she had. I think it to me it feels like a bipolar schizophrenia sort of combination. She's up and down like a yo-yo. She doesn't her reality is very fractured. Even in spirit, it's fractured. And my guides have told me that when I cross over, she will come with me, and that's how she'll get home, because she doesn't understand, and it will take the rest of my lifetime for her to understand, which for some people sounds a bit scary, I suppose, having a spirit connect to you that way. But depends how you look at it. I had a conversation with Rick, and I said to him, it's like I have to look after Eve. And Rick said, it's like having a child with special needs, a disabled child. You're responsible for that soul. And that's how I feel. I'm responsible for Eve. I'm responsible for little Aurora and her mum finding each other. I'm responsible for young Chloe getting home. That's my job. I see a lot of people who buy and sell their haunted objects, and there are so many sites on Facebook and Etsy and eBay that sell haunted dolls, and they're usually the 1980s mass-produced dolls, because I guess people feel if it's porcelain then it's old, and it's got age, and therefore it, can have a spirit from, the 1900s attached to it if it was made in 1980. And it is entirely possible, but knowing a bit about the history of dolls and what dolls are from what era kind of helps a little bit to figure out where the spirit has connected to the doll. Like I said, the earliest, I've got one doll that's from the 1980s. I've got dolls from the 1980s. I've got dolls from the 1990s. I've got dolls from the 50s. I've got one from the 40s. And I've got one from 1918, and she's German, and she's from Germany. She's made in Germany. Just around the time of World War One. She's probably the oldest one I have. And the newest is probably the little animatronic one that I bought on Facebook for, I think I bought it for $50 or something. And we actually got her to take out in the field with us as well. So that's my take on it. It's not all, running down the hallway away from the doll who's got a knife trying to knife you to death in the middle of the night. It's not like Annabelle, the Annabelle movies or the Conjuring movies. They're not all out to get you. Some of the spirit that come with the dolls, they're quite sweet souls. They're quite gentle people, and they are people. They're not, and that's how I look at it. They are people. And for whatever reason, they've hung on to that particular object, whether it's because they loved it, whether it was the only friend they had, whether it was because someone gave it to them with love and it was given to them with love, so therefore they had love, whether it was something they treasured because of the monetary value. For whatever reason, they connected themselves to that object. Dolls get a bad rap, like I said, because, there are voodoo dolls and there's witchcraft, and witchcraft uses dolls, and that's a whole different kettle of fish. Witches use dolls in all sorts of ways, and it's not always negative. But they are people, and they choose me, I feel. I don't feel I choose them. they choose me. There's a reason why all the souls are here in this corner. There's a reason why Eve is here and Aurora's asleep in there, and there's a reason why young Jamie here, who's the most recent one that turned up the other day, is young Jamie. And his name's Jamie because he actually has it written on his singlet, which is the first time that's happened. He's weighted. He feels like a baby. He's quite heavy. And young Jamie has a little spirit with him who I feel is a miscarriage, a child who'd been miscarried, a child from a loss. And to me, Jamie is either he or a she name, and he's dressed in green, so it's not he's not here nor there. So he's quite a sweetie. Just so one of the things I wanted to make a point is I've found a lot of the dolls that do have attachments are the handmade dolls, the dolls that were the hobby dolls, the ones that were made in classes or given to people as gifts, or you know, if someone has a baby, you give them a doll. That was generally what the go was. Little girls like getting dolls for Christmas and birthdays, and that was generally what I've found. I do have a doll in the cabinet that was mine when I was like 10. She's still in there. One of the cabbage patches in the corner is actually mine. This is young Jamie. He's a new one. He's also a handmade doll. He's a bit of a sad sort of soul, I think. From what I can pick up from him, he's a doll that was given as a therapy to help a woman who had lost a child. He's very neither here nor there. He's very generic. I say he because that's the energy I pick up. You know, he's not in blue or pink. He's in green, and Jamie's more of a kind of a neutral sort of name. Can mean either or. I've only had him since last week. He's quite a gentle sort of little soul. Doesn't say much. Doesn't want too much. Doesn't cause too much hassle. Likes to cuddle. Likes a hug, as kids do. The other one that I've got sitting here is young Chloe, and she is very lifelike in a lot of ways. Oh, just knocked her hat off. She is very lifelike in a lot of ways, and she's quite a. I've written about Chloe. She has the spirit attached to her of a young girl. She's about 11 who passed due to childhood cancer. So the dolly was in hospital with the young girl, and that's how the connection was formed. So there you have it. Haunted objects, haunted dolls. They're not all out to hurt and kill you and stab you in your sleep. The majority of them, in my experience, need some kind of help. They need some kind of company. They get something from the living they didn't get while they were alive. Whether it's company, whether it's security, whether it's understanding, whether it's in some aspects care and compassion. And they're all things when a spirit is crossing over, they need that. And if they don't have that, they can't cross over. They can't go into the light because they're holding on to very human emotional baggage. So I hope that helped. I hope it clarified a few things. I hope you got something out of it. I hope you enjoyed seeing my little collection and the souls that are connected to them. And I'll do another video soon.